Good evening, everyone. Welcome. For folks who don't know me, I am Stacy McClendon. I'm one of the teachers here at Common Ground and have the great fortune. It's absolutely delightful to spend the evening talking about cultivating this warmth of the heart, loving kindness. So we will sit for a while. We'll hear some from the community by way of the notebook. Chelsea, can you shine a little light on the Kuan Yin over there for me? We have a compassion or loving kindness notebook in the corner with near the statue of Kuan Yin, and folks drop in and write notes, sometimes just a request for sending loving wishes, or they are sending loving wishes. So we'll hear what people have shared from their hearts, and then I'll share some reflections on making effort toward increasing our capacity for loving kindness. I asked James, who is part of the co-host tech support team along with Chelsea, to cue up a song, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll have time for a song that it's absolutely a dharma song, so if we have time, I'd like to share that later in the evening. And how's the sound for folks on Zoom? Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you. So let's start with the sit. Find a posture that's both comfortable, maybe allowing the body to be soft, relaxed, but also sensing where there's energy, where there's a sense of aliveness. Setting aside our tasks, perhaps if we're able, setting aside any attention we've been giving to the thinking, ruminating mind. And just landing right here in the present moment. The breath, the body, they're always present right here. And as the nervous system settles, as the mind maybe settles, you can sense into the faith that led you to show up here this evening, practice in community. Faith in the goodness of this heart. maybe having some confidence in the impact of an attitude of caring. Not trying to fix anything. Just a simple understanding. The way we show up, the way we meet experience, it matters. From this place of confidence or trust, we can allow ourselves to be inspired to cultivate this intention of caring, of loving kindness. Allowing the heart to feel tender, like an open hand, not holding tight to anything at all. Allowing space for goodness to arise. And as we grow in confidence in this heart that can be tender and care, even in difficult or challenging situations, we grow in our capacity to express this kindness generously, indiscriminately. And it is true with this practice, we grow more sensitive. And this supports us in attuning to a direct felt sense of allowing this attitude of caring to grow. And also, what the feeling is like when we don't express or act on the kindness that's present. And the conditioned mind might habitually go to the story of who's deserving, what's safe, when it's the right time to be kind, to express goodwill. But when we begin to experience a steadiness of heart, mind, we understand that this expression of goodness isn't dependent on external conditions, anything being just right, just so. This freedom, this expression is dependent on the condition of our own heart-mind. Either striving or turning away from. We understand that we can't claim love if we're not honest with ourselves, with others, when we're hostile, judgmental, causing harm. Is indeed wisdom that allows us to feel deeply the benefits of caring, kindness. So we cultivate this intention. And allow it to inform our speech, our actions. Whether your confidence and your heart's capacity for caring in this way is big or small, we found our way here together to community. moment to stretch or adjust your body if you need to. Chelsea, can we get the ceiling fans? Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of switches over there. So there you go. Yeah, this cultivation of goodness in the heart is really the core of the Buddhist teachings. Not only, not to cause harm, but what supports this kind action, right? It's not just don't do, but it's a heart that cares and is committed to expressing that care indiscriminately. And so I think I mentioned before that we have this lovely tradition here where people drop in and share what's on their heart, sometimes joyous and sometimes, difficult. But it's a beautiful practice. The traditional metta practice, there's a couple of different ways. We chant or recite phrases to wish loving kindness, well-being, to start with ourselves and sort of radiate out until we get to all beings or continue out. There's a sense of embodying loving kindness and allowing that to move out. And so listening to the shares of folks in the community is just a beautiful way to embody this practice of loving kindness, right? We don't have to know the backstory, the why, how it turned out. We can just allow our hearts to be tender and hold this person that we may or may not know and their experience. And we'll have a sense of when we're receptive and open and when this tenderness and care is moving and where we're sort of blocked. And not to shame ourselves or be critical, but to be interested, like what's here? What is in the way of this care being expressed? So our lovely program host, co-host, Chelsea is going to read from the notebook. And we'll just allow a pause between shares and just allow our hearts to open to as best we can.
I am not the body. I am not even the mind. Mudita for my friend Tamar, who shared her 50th birthday with me. Wishing Common Ground Board Secretary Omkar and his family many blessings with the birth of his first child, Bodhi. Sending Omkar and Jenna much love as they learn the art of parenting together. Metta to our neighbor who was evicted with her family today, hoping for a good outcome for them. Metta for the 30-year-olds. Sending some wisdom and love to a friend struggling with past trauma activation. I am not the body. I am not the mind. May my third eye be open today. Metta for my 90-year-old mother who has dementia and a spinal fracture. Thank you, common ground. For all who suffer war, that the wars may end and be replaced by peace and justice.
Thank you, Chelsea. Yeah, and some of, maybe all of those shares or reflections, we can hear the relationship, right, between a knowing, an awareness, and the call for some action. That this loving kindness practice, it is cultivating this attitude of care, sending wishes to all beings as best we can. But it's also action. This path is a practice to support wise and skillful, kind and generous action. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the maps taught by the Buddha that supports this cultivation and wise action. It's generally called the 5 spiritual faculties. So they're characteristics of mind that exist for all of us, that when cultivated and balanced, strengthened, are referred to as spiritual power, 5 spiritual powers. And I mentioned them in the meditation. I mean, I hope they were familiar enough, right? This confidence or faith. Faith is often how it's taught, sata, right? This confidence or trust in the path that the Buddha has laid out for us, but also in our own capacity, right? To step onto the path, to walk this path, to engage in ways that are useful. And this engagement is actually the second on this list, is energy, virya, right? So when there's some confidence, like, oh, all right, I think there might be something to this. We gain a little energy, some curiosity, some interest to engage. Like, I'm going to explore this. That sounds interesting. I'm going to try that, or maybe it's study or go on a retreat. And at the center is mindfulness, right? So always interested, aware, sati. Some teachers talk about it as remembering, and we're not cultivating something new, right? Just remembering our capacity to be present right here. In many, many ways, this practice is not about doing, it's learning to undo. Undo this conditioning of the mind to think a certain way, or behave a certain way, or believe certain things. And to drop into the present moment, to feel, see, know directly what's moving and what the response is that's needed, just based on what's happening. And it sounds so simple, right? But that's not what our minds do. Like, we don't even have to think about it, right? We just drop in, we assess, we recall something from the past, we lay that over what's happening here, and lay out a response based on maybe more past than present moment, maybe more fear than present moment, maybe more like hope and aspiration of what could be, what we think should be. And what's here, we lose sight of. When the mind is collected, balanced, we call that samadhi, or concentration. And this is the fourth faculty. And I like to think of it as steadiness, because concentration, for me, it brings to mind like a mind that is narrow, like only this. And it is that the mind is collected and we are focused, but we are not excluding, right? It's actually this expression of wisdom, like recognizing what's beneficial and useful, and to give our attention and nurture and develop, and what is not, that we can set aside. Right? And it's not in the thinking where we have spent most of our years, but it is in this observing, collected mind, right? And this is the cultivation of wisdom, being able to discern what supports well-being and what is feeding our stress, our distress, our disconnectedness from one another. And this idea of loving kindness, the heart that cares without discriminating, can be a wild idea. Many of us, I certainly have been socialized to think of what I give in a very guarded way, what I give of my heart in a guarded way, like who's deserving, did they earn it, are they giving it back, like don't give too much, right? Don't give more than someone else. And what we're learning to do is that sensing into like what feels good to this heart. And we don't necessarily have a lot of practice dropping into the heart. We live in the mind. All of the shoulds, what someone else did, what we think someone else expects. And this practice of being still and being quiet is quite intentional, right? To learn to be sensitive to those surges of energy. That come when we're generous and kind and patient. And that has a very different felt sense than the energy of hostility and rejection and hatred. And I, nor the Buddha, said this is the right one and this is the wrong one. But it's always this invitation. Like, what does it feel like in the body? Does it bring about well-being when we are withholding kindness or dispensing some sort of hatred or judgment. And not the story, not the narrative. And you know, there's no confessional in Buddhism, so you don't have to come prepared to say, you know, yeah, I don't like this person, and I don't want to like them, and I don't think I can be nice to them. Like, you don't have to roll that out. But it's true. Like, for many of us, there's someone, or has been someone, a situation in our life that feels like, I just can't go there. And it's not about a forcing. It's understanding, like, what is in the way? What is in the way? And we're not taking care of someone or trying to fix any sort of harm that's been done or bridge some distance with, you know, loving kindness. I'm going to give some loving kindness and we should be right. It can be really useful for us to remember that this heart practice starts with our own heart. Like, what is going to bring healing here? And it may or may not involve this direct engagement with, you know, whatever, person, beings. But it is this, inclining the heart, mind toward harmony, which is another just like sort of activating word for me. Maybe it is for you. Especially in spiritual communities where harmony is like everyone gets along, we kind of all believe the same, think the same, let's not make any problems, not make any waves. And the rug that everything gets swept under gets lumpy and big and like, this isn't really harmony, right? There's no place to like really be stable, like with all of this stuff under the rug. And what if harmony is this peace of mind, this heart that is free to be close to even that's difficult? Like between us, around us. And not with any sort of expectation that this being close or naming or touching into is going to be the magic solution. What I have known directly is that it actually takes far less effort, energy, right, to just be close, name the thing I don't like, I don't want, that is hurtful, than all of the avoidance or soothing in maybe unskillful ways that I do, because that is hard. And they say that I should be over it, be done with it, or whatever it is. It is like freeing ourselves from it is freeing ourselves from the burden of carrying this sense of responsibility to know, to fix. And it's far, maybe scary is the word, or unfamiliar, or maybe risky, to be open and tender and vulnerable. But that's the invitation, to be open and see, like, what's needed now. And sometimes in a relationship, one of the best ways we can take care is to allow space, to allow distance, right? Maybe that's what's needed for recovery, repair. And sometimes that recovery, that repair is not going to come about unless there's a moving toward, even when we don't know. Like, it is an act of faith and courage, right? To step out, to trust this heart that says, pushing them out, a person, a group of people, continent of people, like pushing them out, right? It doesn't feel good. I don't know what the right way is, but I know that this way, even if it's the way that's being modeled for me or that I've been taught is the way, right? They call that an unshakable faith. Like, I actually know this directly. So it doesn't align with what people are saying. And it doesn't really matter what other people are doing when we know it directly. Right? It's a bright faith. Like maybe early in our practice, the teacher, maybe they're charismatic or just incredibly grounded or bright, and we're like curious, excited even about practice and starting on the path. And the sort of verified faith is like we're inspired to take some action because of this. Right? But once there is a knowing, like that is our integrity, aligning our actions with our values, with this direct knowing of what supports well-being, what is in the direction of joy. Let me read a passage. This is Bell Hooks. If you're not familiar with Bell, who passed a couple years ago, brilliant scholar, poet, feminist, activist, who wrote several, I believe, practitioner books about, this is all about love. This is an old text. I think she has a couple of other ones with love in the title, but as you can see from my post-its and dog-eared, this has been one that has resonated for me. She says, once we begin to replace negative thinking with positive thinking, it becomes utterly clear that far from being realistic, negative thinking is absolutely disenabling. When we are positive, we not only accept and affirm ourselves, we are able to affirm and accept others. The more we accept ourselves, the better prepared we are to take responsibility in all areas of our lives. We can choose how we respond to acts of injustice. And every day we practice this shape-shifting to cope with realities we cannot easily change. Because we can get hooked there, like what difference is it going to make anyway? This is so big, I'm not in control of this, right? We leave an imprint everywhere we are and everything we touch. Everything. There is a residue. And so this practice, being mindful, this orienting of the heart, is setting the intention to leave a residue, at least with the intention that it makes things better. We don't know. We're planting seeds. We don't know when those seeds will blossom. Right? But we are intentionally responding in ways that is nourishing here, that brings about our own well-being, because that sets us up pretty good to do something that is good and useful if we are taking care here. Ajahn Suchito, who is a teacher in this tradition, monastic, talks a bit about faith. I said I was going to talk about energy, but I'm talking more about faith. And I love the way that he talks about this. He says, awakening is based on the process of letting go. Letting go is about carefully revealing assumptions, biases, life messages, and releasing them. You can liken the process to a gradual descent out of the tumult and gridlock of your personal world and into the free space of the unconditioned. It's rather like lowering oneself down a rope. To know how to do that, it's a matter of holding on to something you trust. Even though it seems like a thin strand, and letting go little by little, trusting the downward pull. This is the trajectory of non-engagement, abandonment. And by non-engagement, abandonment, like greed, hatred, delusion, like holding to these ideas, beliefs, right, in a very fixed and rigid way. And we make this descent with faith, that whatever is on the other side, right, at the bottom of the rope, that it will not harm us. Yeah, so that's the question. What are we orienting to? Like what's known and familiar? Do we call that trustworthy, even though it may not be beneficial? And what's needed to support us in allowing? It really is an allowing, an attitude of care, of kindness. When I was preparing for this talk, Matthew Hepburn, who is a guiding teacher at Cambridge Insight, talked about energy, the virya. It's like, you blow up a balloon with air, not helium, just air, and you sort of tap it, you're keeping it afloat, just gently tapping, right? It's not an aggressive batting at or grabbing at. That is the measure of energy, right? Just enough to keep the mind interested, the mind balanced and present. And I like that visual because we can be such striving individuals. We get so focused, like that is the thing. Forget everything else. I have to go after that, right? And it's almost like trampling on something that's very tender and fragile. And it does require this faith or confidence that this tapping of the balloon, gentle, easy, is enough. The steadiness of mind, samadhi or concentration, like this supports the understanding, right, of nature. Cause and effect. When we orient the mind toward what's positive and good and loving and kind and gentle, what comes about is likely to be positive and good and loving and kind and gentle. Immediate was not in there, right? Because we don't know when. It's not necessarily about the fruit, right, the blossom, but the seed that we're planting in our own heart and what that feels like. I've been practicing a long time, and there's this momentum of practice. Like there's not always the effort to be mindful, to be present in the moment. And it's so weird when it shows up. Like today, took the oat milk out of the refrigerator, and there was this awareness, like, oh, just pulling it out, like, oh, you're rushing, you're hurrying, like the unscrewing of the cap, and it's not always there. Just like all of these like spiritual faculties are not present all of the time. Like this is our practice. We're making the intention, making effort, and allowing ourselves to be sensitive, to hear the words as they roll out of our mouth, right? And to feel that impact, that residue. Oh, that's not exactly what I wanted to set in motion. That actually doesn't feel good. And I was thinking about this. I laid down to take a nap, and that didn't happen. But this occurred to me while I was trying to take a nap. That when or I'll just speak for myself, like just reflecting back, and I don't have a specific example, but when I have engaged in some unskillful way, like I have noticed, I reflected on in the past, I couldn't think of a current example, like the sort of scurrying about to get affirmation that what I did wasn't that bad, right? Sort of like talking to this person, retelling the story to get like, oh no, it's not that bad. A cosign, like I know exactly who to call that's gonna cosign my whatever. I do. But it was interesting, like, oh well, who do I talk to when I feel like I've done something skillful, that I've done something, I've set some good in motion. And the ego isn't there to need that back. Like it feels actually boastful. Like, huh, that's interesting. So I do dirt. I want to tell everybody and try to convince them it's not dirt. But when I do good, like it just holds us. Like, oh, and that's why we sit, right? Cultivating this present moment awareness. So when you find yourself, you all were laughing, so maybe you do it too. When you find yourself calling your person so they can co-sign the thing, you're like, oh, maybe it's not that I need affirmation. Maybe looking more closely at the motivation for that action is what's needed, right? It's that moving close, right? That turning toward someone who's going to say, oh yeah, it wasn't that bad. It's actually a turning away from the truth of the impact of our actions. I'll just read something else. I could just read all of my things and stop generating my own thoughts. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. This is actually from a text I'm not familiar with. Nathaniel Braden, 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. I imagine it's pretty old, given this book is pretty old. But Braden says, to live consciously means to seek to be aware of everything that bears on our actions, purposes, values, and goals, and to the best of our ability, whatever that ability may be, and to behave in accordance with that which we see and know. And that's the staying with, not jumping into the narrative, the excuse, the justification. And it's not about painting ourselves out to be like bad and unskillful all the time. We do a lot that's useful and kind and generous and good also. And it takes maybe even more practice to be able to acknowledge that, to name that, without, this is what my mind does, yeah, but I could have done that, I could have done more, I should have done that, but look what they did. So it goes both ways, the seeing our actions, the power of our thoughts and their residue or, yeah. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to read what I intended to close with, and maybe if there are reflections or comments, we can go there. And maybe, I think we'll have time for a tune for sure. This is Bell Hooks talking about sort of the gift of love. She says, to receive the gift, we have to first understand that there is no fear in love. That fear keeps us from trusting in love. She says, cultures of domination rely on the cultivation of fear as a way to ensure obedience. In our society, we make much of love and say little about fear. Yet we are all terribly afraid most of the time. As a culture, we are obsessed with the notion of safety, yet we do not question why we live in states of extreme anxiety or dread. Fear is the primary source upholding structures of domination. It promotes the desire for separation, the desire not to be known. When we are taught that safety lies always with sameness, then difference of any kind will appear as a threat. When we choose to love, we choose to move against fear, against alienation and separation. The choice to love is a choice to connect, to find ourselves in the other. And this lastly. To live our lives based on the principles of a love ethic, showing care, respect, wisdom, integrity, and the will to cooperate, we have to be courageous. Learning how to face our fears is one way we embrace love. Our fear may not go away, but it will not stand in the way. Those of us who have already chosen to embrace the love ethic, we call it loving kindness here, allowing it to govern and inform how we think and act, know that when we let our light shine, we draw to us and are drawn to other bearers of light. We are not alone. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. I was, I think inspired to talk about this cultivating love in a very active way. Sometimes I need a little bit more than just radiating out my thoughts. I need to find a way to remember that I am connected. each of you, to everyone, and that, yeah, this attitude of mind, it does make a difference. It actually does. Just because I can't control it doesn't mean that I don't leave some ripple. And you too. So I'll stop there. I'd love to hear your own thoughts about loving kindness. Yeah, what your practice looks like, or questions or pushback, all of it's welcome.
Check, check. I really appreciate the metta honoring someone with experiencing trauma activation, because I had a very real experience of that last night and made today very challenging. I'm very grateful I can be here this evening and just experience. I just feel a very healing presence here tonight, being with you all. And I was experiencing a lot of what you were talking about, Stacy, of just sort of sitting with everything about myself tonight and just being aware of it all, like things I like about myself, things I don't like about myself, things I wish I could change right now, and just sort of having moments of very real acceptance of all of who I am. It didn't, it comes and goes. I can't sustain it, but it's there. It's there, and I can tap into it, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. Yeah, we're all worn by this thing called life, right? Sometimes, some ways we get, I know I keep using the word nourished or energized, and in some ways we are pushed to our limits, right? And the lessons and sometimes the hurt of those experiences stays with us. And can that be part of our experience and not be, what was the word, disenabling, right? Sort of a yes and. Right? Yes, this is real, like, yes, I want this jelly roll, my little belly pooch, to go away, and I really want some cheesecake from Cafe Latte. Right? Right? So, like, I think I can live with it one more day, the jelly roll here, right? And, like, when we can be light with ourselves and see when we're being a little extra or whatever it is that we're being, it makes it opens the door, leaves space for us to be with ourselves, to hold ourselves a little more gently. This remembering of impermanence, imperfection. And fortunately, the opportunity to begin again, right? Tomorrow, no cheesecake, because I ate it all today, right? Or if I heard myself being a little harsh with someone today, I don't have to ride myself, berate myself all night, all day, the rest of the month. I can vow, like, yeah, that didn't feel good. I don't want to do that again. I'm going to begin again. I mean, the loving kindness has to start right here. We can't really fake it. And we're not very good at starting right here. Right? So we go through a lot of motions. We know what like the actions of love look like or care. And we can do that sometimes without caring, really. And maybe you've been on the receiving end of that and like, that was weird. Like it looked like the thing, but it didn't feel like care. It's trusting that, and just like we trust our own intuitiveness about what we're sending out. This knowing. All right, we'll have a song. This is, we'll try to have a song. I do have my phone. I just didn't know how it would play from here on my phone. So I'm sure some folks know Ellis Delaney is a community member and brilliant, funny artist, musician, and this is an old song, but it is one of my favorites, and that's all the setup it needs.
I'll tell you a secret that I've learned. Nobody knows everything. We all get caught up in what we think and believe it's the truth. But mostly we don't have the answers, and life can feel like an unsteady boat, drifting away from the land, making us feel alone. It is love that will carry you home. It is kindness that holds back the storms around you. It is patience sitting right beside the doubt. The only truth is what we do with right now. Something I finally come to realize: everyone has to compromise. We can't do it all at the same time. It just doesn't work. But we can spend our whole lives worrying about things out of our control. And then we find that life was built for change, and we have to let it all go. It is love that will carry
they go by Ellis, Ellis, Ellis Delaney. For the last, I don't know, 20 years or so, they have performed at our New Year's Eve program. So it is such a treat to Bible. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. Thank you for your practice, everyone. And yeah, spending Friday evening looking at the heart. I think Chelsea maybe has a few announcements.
So yeah, there's a couple guest teachers and a few half-day retreats coming up. So Annie Nugent will be here tomorrow night at 7. And then there's another guest teacher, Tuere Sala, on Wednesday, July 2nd at 7:30. And half-day retreat with Mark on Saturday, June 14th, and half-day with Shelley on July 5th. So you can sign up for any of that just through the website. Go to the calendar and click on it, and there will be a registration link there. And then just a reminder that everything here, all the programs and retreats are offered freely. So yeah, it's just the center is run on generosity, and so there's no suggested donation or anything like that. But if you do feel moved to donate, there is a bowl that you can put cash or check in just on the other side of this wall. There's also a QR code for Venmo, and there's a card reader out there that I can help you with if you want to use a credit card to donate. And 2/3 of the donation goes to the guest teacher, Stacy, and then 1/3 of it will go to the center just for operations. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night.